Dan Orlovsky. My first question to you, Dan, would be, when was the last time you pulled an all-nighter? Because our guy Christian Fauria here is going 25 hours straight on the radio to a crusade for a cause to fight diabetes. When was the last time you had an all-nighter?
Well, first of all, that's good work by you, Christian, man. That's awesome, dude. That is impressive stuff, but it's awesome stuff. Says a lot about you. Dude, I call football games, college football games for ESPN every weekend. So if you haven't traveled to some of these small town college football towns, certainly in the southeast, I feel like I pull an all-nighter almost every weekend with that travel.
Yeah, but that doesn't count. Let's get into when was the last time Dan Orlovsky just had an all-night bender? An all-night bender where you're like, wow, is that the sun coming up?
Yeah. I would say the last time. Oh my goodness, man.
At UConn.
Yeah, probably at UConn. I don't know. I drove through the night a couple of times with my family, but that's not necessarily an all-night. Like, pull an all-night bender, the last time I did that was more than likely my rookie year in no other than Las Vegas.
All right, so the Patriots were on a bye, so we're all just sitting here. We were just talking about it. How drastic can things look? And hopefully they look drastic, right? Hopefully there are improvements. Hopefully somebody runs around pre-snap once in a while. I don't know, mixing an RPO, but how drastic can you fix things in 1 week, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, you get what you emphasize. So you could take some pretty good leaps forward, and I would imagine that place is pretty strategic about the things that they emphasized and got better on. So I'll dive right into it. I think the number one thing that needs to get better for them when it comes to their pass game, and I'm doing this on NFL Live today actually, is, and I've got 3 plays to kind of give the examples of it. There's a disconnect right now with the timing and the pace of Mac Jones's drop in relation to the depth and routes of the receivers and actually getting their head around for the football. Because I was watching these clips and I'm like, why is Mac running so much this year? And he gets into these shotgun drops and you watch him go 1, 2, 3, hitch. And I'm looking at the receivers and none of the receivers are even in the top of their routes, let alone starting to break and look back for the football. But Mac has already hitched twice. And so for everyone, listen, when us quarterbacks, when you're in the pocket and you go hitch, that's your body clock telling you, dude, you got to get the ball out or you got to go.
Dan, real quick, Joe actually answered this because somebody asked him actually off our interview a little bit, I think last week, and he just said, well, every single route's got different timing. Is it a short route? It was like a word salad. And he tried to explain it away.
But every route does have different timing, but the timing has to be accurate. The timing has to be married to the quarterback's drop, and the pace and the speed of the quarterback's drop has to be married to the depth of the routes as well. And if there's multiple, I'm doing it today, so if there's multiple examples of it showing up, this isn't the blame game, but it's something that they have to have hopefully addressed and fixed in their bye week.
So Dan, I was just, do coordinators, do they have the same sort of insecurities and self-doubt as players, when it comes to calling plays? If they're nervous about bad things happening, do they tend to, just stay in their comfort zone instead of calling a motion or calling a play action? I feel like that's what's happening with the Patriots offense, right? The novice coaches that haven't called plays, that aren't coordinators, staying in their comfort zone, afraid to kind of open things up because they've never done it before.
Yeah, so I agree with that. And I think one of the more frustrating things that I hear from coaches, now sometimes this is an accurate statement. One of the things I get frustrated by was we just got to execute better. And I always say this, well, what happens to you as a coach helping me execute better or giving me something that, is easier for me to execute? Or you have impacted the defense so much that my execution level doesn't need to be so outrageously high because we've got an advantage. This is exactly what I said about, Tampa and when Tom went there the first year. They were so dependent on ideal or high-end execution because they were so vanilla in the basic stuff that they did and so, repetitive and kind of predictive. And I think you can make the case that New England sits there and, again, when you're calling the same plays over and over again, coaches often sit there, we just got to execute better. Yeah, I'm aware of that. I get all that, but it's really hard to execute when, the defense has 2 or 3 plays in their mind that might happen, and they've got a pretty good beat on what I'm about to do.
So, Dan, I want to veer a little bit. We're talking to Dan Orlovsky of ESPN, just away from the Patriots for a minute, because I am interested in what's going on with Josh Allen. You know, there were injury concerns for him with that elbow going into the game that they lost to the Vikings. Since the Patriots are seeing the Bills twice in the remainder of their regular season, the issues you see with Josh Allen, how much do you relate those to Brian Daboll's departure? And how much, you know, I know that you don't believe in a quarterback regression on the field, but I guess what would you diagnose as what's going on there with him?
Yeah, I mean, it's certain you can make the case that it's attached to Dable some. You know, Josh is still playing really, really good football for like 98% of football games. And, you know, obviously Dable's got the Giants and Daniel Jones playing solid. You know, I think let me say this. Number one, you never take a great player's stinger away. Never. You never do that. And I think that there's a little bit too much being made out of some of the interceptions out of Josh. Josh is very much so where Patrick Mahomes was last year, you know, where I can do anything and everything because I'm asked to and I can. And it's not all that different than Matthew last year. Like, well, people were saying, well, Matthew Stafford led the NFL in interceptions last year and the Rams won the Super Bowl. Couple things, because that's a lie. Or misleading. Number one, Matthew wasn't throwing interceptions in crucial moments of games last year. He was throwing them like the first quarter. And second of all, Matthew was nails when it mattered the most, and he always has been. So Josh, in those moments, and I think like when I say this, there's too much being made about it. I don't think you sit there and make a big deal about this if you're Buffalo and their coaching staff. You got to have conversations with Josh, you know, because his greatest strength, his wild competitiveness, can become his greatest flaw, which is I think I can make any throw at any moment because I can, because I have to, because I know I can. And I think you just have these really good conversations with him of like, what are we seeing? You know, like, why did you make this throw? Do I have to call different plays in those situations? Do you like this play in the first quarter, but maybe you don't like it in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line? You know, you never want him to be cautious with the ball. I always say these great players, you got to put a ball in harm's way. But I think it's fair to sit down and have some conversations with him about what are we seeing? Why is this maybe happening right now? But you want this dude to continue to be aggressive.
Talking to Dan Orlovsky, ESPN. And Dan, we beat the hell out of Patricia. We beat the hell out of Judge and offensively in this game planning and this game calling and everything. But I just wonder, is Bill getting a free pass in all of this? Like, am I supposed to believe that he doesn't have a say in this offense, that everything that is going on right now that he's not on board with?
No, I don't think you can give him a free pass. I mean, he's the person who technically assigned these guys and or hired these guys. And so that's part of it, step one. Step two, he's certainly going to have some conversations. And what are we doing? Why are we doing it? All that stuff. And how are we teaching it? How are we coaching it? What are we adjusting off of it? So I don't think he should be getting a pass for where things sit. But he is Bill Belichick, right? So I think it's easier to sit here and point the fingers or criticize Joe Judge and Matt Patricia because they're the guys with their hands in it, and they haven't accomplished nearly as much as Coach Belichick has. But he can't get the gloss over he had no part in it. Like, I saw a tweet yesterday, I think, by a local reporter that, like, the Patriots have regressed offensively, like, significantly in basically every offensive category. Well, no, duh. You know, like, that's been obvious since March. And so hopefully they've really been good about their bye week stuff.
So Zach Wilson, Patriots play the Jets. Last time the Patriots played the Jets, Zach Wilson had 3 turnovers, and they were ugly. Yep. They were bad turnovers. Yep. So I'm just curious, what Zach Wilson do the Patriots get this week? They get the bad one or the good one?
You hope the bad one, right? Because it gives you a greater chance to win. But I think, you know, the thing that the Jets can lean on is really the game after that New England game. He had very similar moments against Buffalo, situational football, and he was much better with making the right decision, much better with living to see or fight to see another down, live to see another down, throw the ball away, use your legs. So it's going to be paramount and imperative that Zach continues, if the Jets want to win, to continue to do that. For the Patriots to win, it's like, you know, and they're notorious for this, is like get him into those late game situations where you make him frustrated and force the ball to get thrown away, and see if you can get one or two where he, you know, becomes that player where he becomes so frustrated and fed up with having to do kind of basic stuff and boring stuff that he gets over aggressive, over cocky, and gives you the football.
We've heard a lot of people talk about spending the bye week, figuring out what a team does well and what they should just, you know, throw out for the rest of the season. In terms of this Patriots offense, Where do you see success that they've had, and what direction would you recommend that they go?
What do they do well?
Yeah, what do they do well?
Yeah, I don't. This isn't going to be all that surprising. So I think their internal run game. You guys have heard me say this. Their internal run game is very good. I believe that, but it's very good under the center. So I think they got to really rely on all the different types of gap scheme inside runs they can do: counter, pull the backside guard and power, traps, duo. So those 4 run games that are really built to get inside the tackle, certainly up between the guards. That's their bread and butter. I think the second thing is, again, living in this under-center world of play-action pass that is built off of all those run looks. There was that stretch where guys were getting butt naked or wide open, that Green Bay to Detroit to Cleveland stretch. And I'm aware Green Bay's defense wasn't playing good, Detroit's isn't, and nor is Cleveland's, but there's still guys in the NFL who are wide open. So, I don't like their quick game. I don't like their shotgun pass game right now. And I really think, and this is a wave that we've talked about on NFL a lot, like these teams that are really committed to, finding those run game schemes that they're really good at, pulling people, getting the double team blocks, and then building your play action game off of that. I think they're the teams, not only New England, but a lot of teams are most likely to be successful out on the back end stretch.
Talking to Dan Orlovsky, ESPN. Last one for me. They are currently in the 7th spot, Dan. They got the Jets this week, and then it's back-to-back Thursday night with Minnesota. Buffalo. There's another Buffalo game. Miami, Cincy, Arizona, Vegas. Tough schedule. Are they a playoff team? Do you think they sneak in?
I think when you reel off that schedule, I think of 2 games that I sit there and go, they should win those games. And that's those last 2, Arizona and Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I think they're a playoff team if they do exactly what I just kind of intimated offensively. And then, Matthew and Kyle have to stay healthy and play good football. Now, Judon's had a ridiculous year. Kyle's been really good, but he hasn't been healthy for every game. I think if those 2 guys stay healthy and play at the way that they did for the first 10 weeks, and they make those changes and commit to doing that offensively, I think they can get in, yes.
All right, well, listen, we appreciate it.
Hey, Dan, do me a favor, man. Listen, shoot out my website off your Twitter page.
Give me a quick
little. I tweeted at you. Let me see if you can give me a little help, buddy. If you'd be so kind.
I don't pay attention to the mentions, man. You would not be. That should not come shocking. Can you or someone text me the actual tweet?
Yeah, we got you. We got you. We're gonna send it to you. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, thanks, Dan. We appreciate it.
Good work.
All right, Dan Orlovsky, ESPN. Appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you next week.